The quarterly report for first quarter 2020 is on its way to wine investors. It will give us the first indications of how the market reacts to the coronavirus. We will discuss that in a few seconds with CEO in RareWine Invest Anders Børsen. Also, we will be looking at the four main areas for wine investment: Burgundy, Champagne, Bordeaux and rest of world, which also includes Italy and whiskey. And also, we will be looking at some of the most eye-catching cases from the quarter. Anders, welcome.
Thank you.
We have a little distance here due to the coronavirus, and we have some wine in between us. I would like to ask you, Anders, during these difficult times, how is RareWine Invest going?
Okay, let's have a talk about the company rather than before we jump into the wines. But like any other company, we're affected by this. Wine trade as a theme has suffered mainly from less liquidity in the market, less activity, while the prices have gone down just a slight bit. So as a company, we have a very, very solid capital of more than 6 million euros, which we are actually at the moment not sort of using for anything other than safety. And in this quarter, while we have a serious drop in turnover, we're looking at evening out a quarter like this one, so we'll end up with a big zero. So we're under no way under threat, and nor is our business or our concept.
Under normal circumstances, nothing much will happen from one quarter to another, especially not when we're talking wine investment. But this quarter, Great Britain is out of the EU and the coronavirus has struck. Anders, what was first quarter like?
You're right, Lars. Wine is not normally a very volatile business, and that's actually an asset for this. No one likes a roller coaster if it's in your investment. It's reserved for something else. However, in this quarter we have seen, let's say, the worst quarter in the stock market since 2008, where we had the financial crisis. Some stock markets have plunged more than 30%. And the question that I'm really keen on answering is, how has wine performed during this period of time? And we've claimed for actually years now, and if you had access to our website in the past and still today, you'll see that we actually emphasize on how wine is performing during a time of crisis. And right now we have a time of crisis. And the results have been that wine have dropped in pricing in between 5 and 10%. Actually probably closer to 5-6% as we speak right now. And it's hard to celebrate a small loss. However, if your alternative to investing is cash, then during this time, having a drop in prices of 5-6%, I would consider extremely positive.
Anders, during the last quarter, RareWine Invest has grown to more than 400 investors now. What is that an expression for during times like these?
It means that we have the right investors in this business because we have investors who acknowledge this as a long-term, safe, low volatility, high yielding asset class, who recognize that this is not the time to leave the market because the liquidity in the market is gone during a time of crisis. And that's actually one of the downsides, one of the few downsides we have with wine, that is, it doesn't have the liquidity as a stock market has during this kind of period. But why do we have 400 investors now? Because we're still growing, because people are still looking at this as an asset class, and right now they can easily see how this becomes an alternative. So we have very few investors leaving us, actually less than a handful. We have about 10 investors every month joining, and we have investors who actually buy more wine than they currently have. So all in all, while prices are going down, people still see the value of this investment.
And as you just said, that wine is more resistant than many other assets. And I remember approximately 3 months ago when we were discussing the quarterly report for Q4 last year, Anders, you were talking about that you were still sleeping tight at night as a wine investor. Yeah. Now the crisis has struck. How do you sleep at night nowadays?
I always send out a letter to our investors, and in that letter I took a chance and I said that you should really care about a good night's sleep. And I was actually not sleeping very well the day after I sent that letter because I thought maybe I was being a little too pessimistic. I had not imagined that it would be this relevant to talk about how good you sleep at night. And right now I sleep, I hope, much better than those who are invested in more classical asset classes. I'm very happy to sacrifice a bit of my liquidity in my investment with only losing 5-10%, while the alternative is triple that.
Anders, what about the investors? Let's talk about them.
Yeah.
How is it with their wine in this quarter?
Let's be frank, except a few investors, almost every investor have lost some of the value of their portfolios during this quarter. The typical investor, which means more than 4 out of 5 investors, have seen their value decrease between 2 and 6%, and the overall figure is around 5. So that means everyone is losing, but everyone's losing a lot less than they would otherwise lose if they had invested in other items, except cash, of course. So how are they doing? They're doing well relatively, and overall we're talking small losses.
Anders, if an investor out there wants to get out of wine, is now a good time to sell, or what would you advise an investor to at times like these?
I would say trying to sell now is like trying to sell your stocks during Easter time. The markets are not open, basically. And it's a bit silly to say it this way, because are people not consuming? People are consuming a lot, but they're consuming wines they may have in their cellar, and they're actually postponing any unnecessary purchases right now. So those who are in the market right now are those who are desperate to sell, or those who have an immediate need to buy. And in between these, transactions are still being done, and prices are not too low. But no one who's in a hurry will be able to sell at market price right now. So if you can wait, wait. And when I mean wait, let's see how things are looking on the other. When we go past the summer holiday, I would say that's about the time I'll expect the things to sort of clear up a little bit, unless we get another big hit from this virus.
Anders, what about the wine prices? When will we see wine rise in price again?
Well, it all depends, and it doesn't depend a lot on wine. It depends on how this virus is going to affect us. If we're going to have a second wave of virus, or if we're going to have a second wave of financial trouble. If we're not going to have a second wave, my hope and best guess is that the loss we've seen this quarter will rebound over the next 3 quarters, evening out the entire result and the total result for 2020, but also meaning that those who come into the market right now and who may come in with a discount of 5-10% compared to only 3 months ago, they will actually turn out a profit potentially. However, we're always very conservative. If we see small increases in price, we may take another quarter to sort of account that in. So I think we may see things leveling out over the next couple of months and over summer. And my hope is that when the market picks up again, hopefully in August or let's say September realistically, then we'll have a slightly rising price, or at least the liquidity will come back to the market as we see it, let's say only 3 months ago.
Let's discuss the 4 main areas for wine investments. We have Burgundy, we have Champagne, we also have Bordeaux, and we have an index we call Rest of the World. How do you see the 4 main areas this quarter?
I think we've already laid out that more or less every area has lost value. And those who have lost the most are those who have performed the best, which means there is actually sort of a relationship between risk and reward in this business as well. This means that the Grand Burgundies, as well as the exotic whiskies, those are the ones who've been losing maybe a little more than 10%, sometimes even a little more. And that means actually that some of the Burgundies are beginning to look attractively priced, but we'll probably wait a month or 2 to see things even out and see how the trade's going to be picking up. But the Burgundies are unfortunately those who have lost a bit. But look only at it in a five-year term, you'll see Burgundy having outperformed anything but of course whiskies, but be the very best wine investment you could make. So those who have done well are hit. Those who've done much better, that's the Italian wines and the champagnes. And
we'll discuss that in a little while.
Yeah, we can discuss that in a little while, but they may not look similar, but there are actually more similarities that you can immediately see here.
Let's hear about those similarities, Anders. We have the Sassicaia from Tuscany, an Italian wine, and here we have Dom Pérignon Champagne. And Anders, let's hear about it.
I'll not go into great detail about the Champagne or the Tuscan wines at the moment, because they here represent each their area. It is though interesting to say that both of these wines are actually amongst the few wines who have gained value this quarter, both of them. The Tuscan wines is gaining a lot more momentum. It's actually one of the best performers in the last year, and this is just a rising star, including inside a rising sort of area. And also the Champagnes here, they have just provided consistent value and consistent returns. The similarities I'm talking about here, both of these wines, none of them are affected by the US customs regulations of 25% import duties, which means that the wines that are not affected by this have actually shown out to be the ones that perform the best, or at least lose the least value. And also, these two wines are characterized by having a very small gap between the price that you buy as a distributor from the producer and the actual market price, which means as a distributor you have very little margin to sort of shave off in order to liquidate your portfolio. So these wines actually have some nice characteristics, and they don't look similar, but in some ways they are.
Anders, while discussing these two, I was thinking about the sub-index on LiveX called Italy 100. It's actually one of the most positive indexes right now in terms of wine. Do you have a comment for the Italy 100 index?
Yeah, we didn't look a lot into Italy only 1 year or 1.5 years ago. But since then, Italian wines, and especially the Tuscans, have really improved in quality. Also due to just that the harvests have been so good. But they've also improved in quality, in not only in quality but also in popularity. So this is an area to watch for, and this is actually coming in, and now there is again a very powerful red wine you can invest in, since Bordeaux is really not performing at the moment. So, hooray for that.
Hooray for that, yeah. And thank you everyone for watching. Thank you to you, Anders. We will be back next quarter, and until then you can follow us on social media platforms, sign up for our newsletter, or join our website where we will keep you informed with the latest information. Thank you.